That's better, you might be able to hear me now. Greetings, cable killers. Welcome back to Beginner's Guide to Customising KSP, where for KSP, it's your rules. And here is where we show you how to change things within KSP to make it work the way you want it. Last time, I showed you how to make the big orange tank bigger. Changed it from a 2.5 meter fuel tank to a 5 meter fuel tank, and then I showed you how to add even more fuel to it. Now, what are we going to be doing today? We are going to be adding other resources into that tank. At the moment, it contains fuel and oxidizer, so we are going to be adding monoprop for the RCS, and we are going to be adding a battery to it. The process is very simple. It's literally a case of copy and paste. So here is the config for the 5 meter orange tank that we created last time. Again, open it up in WordPad, no special software required. Let's shrink that window a little bit, and that is where we saved it. So, as I said, it's simple as copy and paste. How are we going to do it? Well, we go and find an RCS tank. Any in the fuel tank? Here we go. Which one shall we use? Well, literally any of them. Go into them, open up the config. Don't want it full screen. Like that. Now you can see we have the RCS fuel tank config there. We have our config. So we're just clicking between the two windows. So we're going to scroll down the RCS config and you'll find something very familiar. The resource module. And it is literally a case of highlight it like that. Bear in mind you've got to grab where it says resource, and then everything from the open square brackets down to the first closed square bracket. This square bracket here that isn't highlighted is for the entire part itself. We don't want to copy that across. So we then can either right click on it, go to copy, or up here somewhere, copy there, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control-C. I usually use keyboard shortcuts. In this case, we're just going to show you a copy. And we're going to go over to our really large orange fuel tank config. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and you can see here highlighted there resource. See the two resources there. Click at the bottommost resource. Doesn't really matter which order you put them in, but as long as you're before the last closed square brackets and after the second to last closed square brackets, then you'll be okay. Just hit enter a couple of times, basically to insert a few extra lines. Click in the middle of them so you've got spaces between them. It's always easier to read when you put additional spaces in. Just be careful where you put them. And then we're going to paste in what we've copied from over here. So to do that, you can either right click and paste, you can hit paste up there, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control and V. In this case, we're just going to hit menu. And there we go. You can see now a third resource module named monopropellant, and the amount 750, max amount 750, and it's that simple. So what I also said that we were going to do is add in a battery pack, and it's that same process. I'm going to get rid of that config. Its battery packs are not in fuel tanks, so we're going to go all the way back up to parts. They're in utility for some reason. And then we're going to have a look through these, see if we can see one. Actually, might not be until... Oh, they're in electrical. Squad needs to do a little bit of housekeeping. Apologies. Inside electrical, here are the batteries. So we're going to take the 1K battery, that one, and its config is there. So we're going to open that up, scroll all the way to the bottom, and again you see resource name is electric charge. I'm going to grab that and copy, go over to here, your config that you're editing, down to there, add in a couple of lines, and go paste, and then voila, now you've just added a battery pack to that fuel tank. So we're going to save it, and it gives us a nice warning about being text only. Well, that's the whole point, we want it only text, please. And now we can go ahead and open up P. That one. Do a Firefox open anywhere? Nope. Else open. And we wait for KSP. Come on. There we go. Go ahead and switch to KSP. Oops. Come on. There we go. As you can see across the bottom, as expected, it's chunnering through the files. One of those files will be the config that we've created, our own config. Pointing correct end towards space. I get a question, how can you not point the correct end towards space since space is all around you? Uh-oh. KSP's started up, so we go start game, saved because we've already created one, default. Sure, all the beginners to this already know how to do it. And we're going to go into the VAB. Fuel tanks. And okay. I seem to have an overlay problem within KSP. Ow, okay. Aha. Anyway, right clicking on the tank now shows we have liquid fuel and oxidizer, which we already know about. We will now also have monoprop storage and electrical charge. There we go. We've successfully reconfigured our 5-meter jumbo orange tank to contain monoprop and electric charge, all in one part. Job done. Love to know what on earth this is. I think I found a new bug within KSP. Wow. Oh, well, I'll have to investigate that myself after the stream. Yeah. Right. Now, in the last stream, I also mentioned about taking wings, making them bigger, and slapping some fuel tanks in them. So, we're going to start with this one. which is a small delta wing. Took you back to my monitor. Yes, and then we go and find it. Go game data squad parts, and we're in Aero. It's called the small delta wing. Might not be called delta wing on here. Not winglet, I don't. Swept wing. Wonder if it is. Let's open up the config and see. Title, swept wing. Nope, that's not the one that we want. Back. Where is it? And this one. It's the Delta Deluxe winglet. Oop. Not that one. Wonder if it's in the NASA mission part. So go back up to game data, submission, parts, in here. Nope, doesn't look like it's in there. Okay, gotta be within the squad directory somewhere. Let's have a look. Parts. Where did they put it? Nose cone, nose cone. Expected rocket nose cone, standard guard, standard nose cone. Did they put it under swept wing? I think we already looked. Okay. Swept wing. Nope, that's the part that we're looking for. Pretty sure it's not there. They put it under utility. Through any names jump out for us. Nope, nothing in that list that jumps out. Structural, maybe. Nope, there's nothing there that jumps. Put it under Mark 1. Nope. 3. Cargo Bay, nope. Under compound part. Shouldn't be under. Nope. Now, where on earth did it gotta be in it? No, I just hate it when you something. Where Delta? Come on, gotta be in here somewhere. Ports, ladders, landing leg, adapter, launch clamp. Yes, parachute, radial attachment, intake. Yes, block. Lights was Hello there, Shirty. Yeah, we'll do our best. Just bear in mind this is the beginners class, so we're covering all of the very basic stuff. So trying to find the that small delta wing in standard KSP. I can't seem to find it. I wonder if I can find it this way. Searches might be slow. Yeah, we know. Sometimes this picks them up, sometimes it doesn't. Not exactly 100% reliable. Tell you what, Shirty, towards the end, let me know what it is you're trying to do, and I'll see if I can log into it for you live on the screen. How about that? Okay, so this search didn't find it. It becomes, why not? Gotta be in there some. Wheels. Nope. Quality. Couplers. Docking ports. Ladders. I'm pretty sure I've already done this. Got to have been given a standard canard. Take a look. No, that's actually called standard canard. Standard nose cone. Oh, yes, we've been through. Delta. How do I get sneaks half the parts on? Standard canards. Delta wing. Retreat. Winglet delta. Right, I found that part. It's definitely not that one. Seen that one, seen that one. Check the others just in case God has really put it in the wrong place. Arrow. I'm in the right game. How to mod for beginners. Yep. Gotta be. I've loaded the 5 meter part. Well, why can't I find? under fuel tanks. Nope, definitely not under fuel. Science. Nope, definitely not under science. Structural. Adapter. Large, small. Nacelle. Hardpoint. Station hub. Structural beams. Panel. Pylon. Strut octo. Why can't I? Couplers. Docking port. Ladders. Adapters. Parachute. Now, I can't find this anywhere. This is a good point to basically jump into KSP's own log file. If we go all the way back up to the main directory, and it's that file there, ksp.log. Again, unless you have already associated it, it won't be associated with an application. So go ahead and associate it with WordPad. And that's associated with Notepad. Reassociate WordPad. So always use the program. Okay. The ksp.log is all the notes, really. That's probably why I associate it with Notepad. KSP is open, so don't open it in WordPad, but it'll open it in Notepad. Windows. Right, in this file is all the notes that KSP makes while it's running. So it starts off by telling you what your system is and the time when you started. And then it logs all the things that it's loaded. Loads audio, textures, so on and so forth. You can do a search within this log file. So because we're having to use Notepad at the moment, edit and find, or Control F, keyboard shortcut, and then we're going to search for the name of it, small delta wing. And see if we can try and find. Cannot find. Isn't that just? Nope. Try just delta. There we go. Get rid of that. Now it's found the winglet delta deluxe. Already seen that. That's not the one. So we're going to go edit, find next, or press F3 and find the next occurrence of delta. And it's not that one. Next. Squad SSP wing. That's not the right directory. That's why I can't find it. Okay, they moved a load of parts in 0.9. Thanks, squad. Game data squad. Okay. And wings. Go. Delta. Check the file name. Delta wing. That's the one that we're looking at. Wonderful. So, we're going to make a copy of that config. So, Control C, Control V. Paste if you want. Right click. Copy. And paste will show up once you copy. I call it Delta Big, because I'm making something big. And go ahead and open it up. So, as we did with the orange fuel tank, part internal name itself, we need to rename. I'm going to call it Delta Wing Big. Ignore the model. Rescale factor, we're going to make it twice as big. We're going to change that to 2. Everything else we can leave the same. Mass, well, we're making it twice as big, so let's make it twice as heavy. Ignore the drag, leave that alone. Ignore the max temp. And then we're down to the bottom there. And as you can see, there is no resource module. So, we go over to our 5-meter orange tank here, and you can see all the resource modules there. Now what we're going to do, you guessed it, highlight liquid fuel and oxidizer. I'm going to right click copy. I'm going to come over here into our Delta Wing Big config, right down at the bottom before the last closed square brackets. Then we're going to right click and paste. Now we don't want that much liquid fuel and oxidizer, so why don't we change it to, I don't know, trying to think of physical sizes here, 600, reasonable. Now, if you remember from the last episode, I said that rocket and used liquid fuel and oxidizer at different rates. So liquid fuel was at 0.9 units and oxidizer was at 1.1. Have to do a little bit of math here. So simple way of doing it is to fetch up the calculator. So we're putting in 600, which is the liquid fuel. We divide by 0.9, which is the ratio for the liquid fuel. Right? And that gives us the total number of units that the rocket engine would take. And then we times that by 1.1, which is the ratio for oxidizer, and we get the value for the oxidizer. The other simple way of doing it is to select 900 and 1100. Simple values that just fly out. We're going to ignore the decimal places because it really won't much. And hey presto, we've now just created a Delta Wing with liquid fuel and oxidizer in. You don't have to have both of them. You don't have to have liquid fuel, you don't have to have oxidizer. You can have it full of just liquid fuel. You can have it with monoprop in there. You can have it with a battery in there. It's entirely up to you. You've got the resources listed here within your 5-meter orange fuel. So just copy one of them out, paste it in, and away you go. You can, of course, copy the monoprop over as well and the battery and have all 4 in there again. It's your KSP, your rules, but just remember when you add liquid fuel, oxidizer and monoprop, you are adding weight to the wing itself for those resources. Just be aware of that. If you suddenly find that even though you've got a load of wings on there, it's still not flying, it's because you've added too much in the way of resources, too much weight. So we're going to save this, and we're going to come out of KSP. Which, well, and then we're going to open it up and take a look at the new delta wing. I'll help you out towards the end of the stream, Shirty. I'll see what we can do. Right, so KSP starting up, so I'll throw you over. As you can see, as I point out every single time, across the bottom it's listing all the parts that it's loading. 2 of those parts will be the ones that you've just created. So let's jump in, start game, resume saved, go to default. Done this quite a few times now already, I'm sure. Go into the baby. Of course, these parts work in the space plane hangar as well. Let's take the 5-meter fuel tank that we created, and that weird bug is still there. Pressed with that bug. Find out what the hell's up with that. And in here, Delta Wing, original one, Delta Wing. Oh, we didn't rename the other one. So the one that we want is this one. As you can see, looking at the stats for the Delta Wing, its mass itself is 6.865, whereas the original was 0.1. The difference in mass, yes, we doubled the original mass. Take a look at the config again, 0.2. Right, so the structure of the Delta Wing itself, its dry mass, gone from 0.1, which was the original one, 0.2. However, because we've added resources into it, its full mass is now 6.865. So just bear that in mind. But as you can see, the winglet lift rating is 2, which actually is exactly the same as the other one. So I want to change that in a minute. But we've got liquid fuel and oxidizer. And of course, it's twice as big. Created. There's the. So we now need to alter the amount of lift. Great. So let's go ahead and chuck you back over to my monitor. Lift rating is of course one of these. Where has it been? Flexion lift coefficient. That's the one. Because it's a bigger part, I can go ahead and increase this, but bear in mind it's a coefficient, not a direct value. So, as a rough guide, I increased by 50% by double the size of the wing. Go ahead and change this to 3. Gives it a little bit more. Drag coefficient. Well, sometimes you can leave it alone, sometimes you can't. In this particular case, because we're taking a relatively small wing and making it medium sized, I would suggest increasing drag coefficient by basically 1/3. Take that up to 0.8. Makes it a bit more efficient, realistic. Now you can of course zero all the drag coefficient as well as these drags and make the part completely dragless. Cheat. And of course the deflection coefficient, you can also whack that up to, well, I wouldn't recommend going above 10. Make a super lift wing. But that's entirely up to you. It's your KSP, your rule. So we're going to save that. We're going to yes. Job done. Of course, don't need to jump into KSP. We know it's going to work. So what else can do? Well, we know we can rescale just about any part using the rescale value with part config. Log file now. So that's pretty much simple and straightforward. One of the things that most people use on Rocket are the separators. It is the, go and find it. It's the TT70 radial decoupler. One of the very first parts that I rescaled. So let's go and take a look at it because it's got a few things extra that you haven't seen. So we're going to get rid of that. I'm going to go back to the main squad directory. I believe it's still in parts. Should be under structural. Nope, not under structural. Ability maybe? Decoupler, there we go. TT radial 70. That up. Open up the config. Okay, radial decoupler 2. That's internal part name. We're going to scroll down. We've got some FX definitions there. They are basically when you stage the part, i.e. it separates, it creates a little puff. That's all that does. Gives you that little puff of white smoke and a sound as well. We can go ahead and leave them as they are at the moment. We're going to come down. New config values is back in. New config values are staging icon. In your staging on the right hand side in the VAB or the left hand side when you're flying, launching, you have a little icon for your decoupler. That setting there makes the icon. So if you're making your own decouplers, for example, you can of course create your own staging icon. Now you've got decoupler horizontal, which is what the HOR is, and you've got, I think it's VRT for vertical. In this case, leave it alone. Stage offset, when you add the decoupler in, stage offset tells it to basically either add it into the staging that it currently is, one above, one below, two above, two below, whichever you. And again with child set stage offset, they just offset where it places your part for staging. Now, doesn't always get it right. I'm forever changing the staging on parts from the defaults. As a general rule, I just completely ignore. Now you have a module in here that you'll never come across. The only values that may be of interest is the ejection force. This is the force exerted between the two parts to push them away from each other. So if you're creating one that is double the size, you can go ahead and double that value. All the other values, just leave them alone. Another module that you won't have come across, well, that are starting to now appear in KSP configs, as we discussed last night in the intermediate, it looks like it's to do with where are you allowed to use parts. So that's kind of getting complicated. If you really want to know how that module works, take a look at last night's intermediate guide. I discuss it. But other than that, you can just completely ignore it and leave it at default. So we are going to duplicate this now. Simply copy, paste, same directory, and then I'm going to give it the same name that I did. Radial TT71. And why not? Open it up. Radial decoupler 2. Well, that really doesn't help for an internal name. So we're going to call it TT-71. Give it a more logical name. Rescale factor. Well, we want it twice as big, don't we? So we're going to change that to 2. Node attaches we can leave alone. Everything else is alone. Attach rules alone. Mass. We're making it twice as big, so double the mass. Drags a coefficient, so again, leave alone. Pressure tolerance alone. Staging icon. It's exactly the same type of coupler, just twice as big. So we no need to change the staging icon, nor the offsets. Ejection force, well, it's twice the size, so let's go ahead and double it. And this module we can leave alone. Hey presto, we've just doubled the size. Shall we go take a look at it? Why not? Wait for KSP to start up again, which is probably the one thing that takes the most time when you are configuring parts within KSP. Is to actually wait for KSP to load. It takes literally 30 seconds to verify that you've created a part alright, and like 3 minutes to start and stop KSP. Takes even longer once you add more parts into KSP. And hey presto. So, as we've done, God knows how many times already, start game, default, hang on, drink me coffee, enjoy cold coffee. So, first of all, take a look at the Delta Wing, which we still didn't give it. Right click on it, lift rating 3, lift rating 2. Right, so we can verify that that change has worked. We go into structural, and there we see TT70, and again we didn't change the name. But you can tell which one's which. You look at the decoupler ejection force, that one's 260, That one says 520. How do they look on a tank? That's really, really weird. Now, I might actually have to raise this in a question on the table for. I wonder if that could be a new thing. But anyway, structural. And that one. There's the TT71 that we just created, and there's the original. Twice the size. Hey presto. How ridiculous does it look when we stick 2 meter, 5 meter tanks together? A little bit like that. And voila. You've got a bigger clearance between tanks when you drop them off, which is one of the things that people have issues with when they're doing things like onion staging and asparagus staging, is that when they release the tanks start to twist slightly and collide with other tanks. Because if you've got a coupler that has a bigger separation between tanks, there's less likelihood of them colliding together. Always good. Like that. Now, one of the things that people are probably going to ask is, why not make command pods? Well, you can certainly do that with the probe cores, but the command pods themselves have additional modules specifically for getting the Kerbal in and out of the doors. So if you change their size, the position of the door can change, which means when you try and EVA the Kerbal, the door doesn't match up with the ladder and your Kerbal falls off. Try and get it back on, you have to aim specifically for where the new door position is, which might not align with basically the markings on the side of the pod. So, not always a good idea to change the pods themselves, but you can change the remote guidance. Now, getting into a little bit more complicated configs here, but we're going to take a look at it anyway, because some of these values you are going to want to change. Let's go through new config values. Go over to the right and we'll go and find them. So they should be within command. And as you can see, advanced SAS module, cupola, external command seat, hitchhiker, inline advanced stabilizer. Let's go for probe core hex. Why not? Up and open up the config file, the CFG file. Right, we'll start with the format's pretty much the same. Got its internal name, module part, author. Again, we've got mesh equal for this one because it's an older part. Got the rescale factor, which allows you to rescale it. Crew capacity is 0. Basically, this tells KSP whether it can be manned by a Kerbal or not. Now, if you do not have a door on the part, well, I use that term, then when you say crew capacity is 1, the Kerbal will not be able to EVA. Might not be a good thing. Nodes stacked top and bottom we've already been through. Same with everything else down here. Name of it. Attach rules we've been through. Mass. Everything is pretty much the same. I think this is the first time we've seen explosion potential. It's a new config value within 0.9. I believe they are using that to change the type of explosion that parts come with. So basically you've got the nice new spectacular yellow and orange bangs, flames and smoke going everywhere, and then you've got that little grey puff and things disappear. I believe if you set explosion potential to 0, you just get the grey puff. If you set it to 1, you get the orange, yellow flames. These values here are commented out, so we can ignore them. Vessel type. This is the first time we've seen this config value. Vessel type is probe. When you are in the tracking center, your vessels have a little icon, and they're either ship, probe, station, rover, etc. That's what that controls. That sets the default icon for your ship. So if this probe core is the root node, i.e. the first part that you put on a ship, right, it will default your vessel type to probe. So in a pod that has Kerbals in, it'll have vessel type ship. Names match up exactly for the types that are in the tracking. You can change them. Now, new module cropping up. Module command basically means it's a command module, but it's the automated one. And it knows it's automated because minimum crew is 0. So combine that with value further up, wherever it's gone. Crew capacity 0. Minimum crew 0. KSP logically deduces that it's an autonomous probe. Now, you see here a resource definition. This is not the resource definition for storage. This is the resource definition for this module. Don't get them confused. This particular resource definition is resource to be used per second. Hence why the rate value is in there rather than amount and max amount, because that is the usage rate per second. So it's using that resource name and that amount per second. You can of course change that to whatever you want, and of course set it to 0. KSP. Resource. Probe cores do come with electric charge, small battery on board. That's where this is controlled. You can of course add additional resources to probe cores by simply copying and pasting the resource module from other parts, basically part config. New module type, which is this one here. Module reaction wheel. Wonder what this could be for. It is for the reaction wheel. Probe cores quite often have them. These 3 values give you the reaction wheel torque. If you ever needed more torque on your reaction wheels, this is the module that you're looking at. These 3 values control how much torque in each of the 3 directions. You also see resource section. This one again has rate. It means that whenever you're using the reaction wheels here, you're also going to be using that resource at that amount per second. So you can of course change that to 0, up these to some ridiculous value, and never have to worry about reaction wheel again. Well, sort of. If you have these torque values set too high, your plane, probe, whatever it is, will start jiggling about all over the place. Because if the torque is too high, the autopilot cannot do fine enough movement, so it'll constantly overshoot where it's supposed to be and then slam you back again across the other side, and it'll keep twitching. So don't set them too high. Another module is the advanced SAS, the SAS. This particular one is the standard SAS, and another config value for module itself. Best advice, leave that module alone. This value is something new that's come in, and it has quite a few implications to the way SAS works. So since this is a beginner's guide, we're going to leave it alone. So how about we go and make a really big hex probe. So same thing again, copy, paste, done this quite a few times now, and we're going to call it Probe Core Hex Big. We like big things. And then we're going to open it up. So Probe Core Hex, change the name, Big, rescale factor 2, proof capacity, again we're going to leave this open. This time we're going to remember to change the title, and well, you can put your own witty description in there if you wish. Go right ahead. Attach rules. Now let's take a look on this one, see if it's actually not listed on. I believe I covered it last night. Basically got allow stack, which is the first one. Allow it to be surface attached, which is the second one. Allow other parts to be stacked to it. Then allow other parts to be surface attached. Now this part is, it doesn't set up so that you cannot surface attach it to something else, and it gets annoying. Honest. So I usually change them to 1 1 1 1 and then whatever the original one. Mass, well, we've just doubled the size, so let's go ahead and double the mass. Drag model type, we're going to leave that alone. Explosion potential, do we want to change that? No, I'm going to leave it. Vessel type probe, well yes, it is a probe. Module command, have no crew. Electric charge, we can leave that alone. Storage on board, 10 units, somewhat low. I'm going to change this to something more reasonable and call it 2. We are making it twice the size. Reaction wheels. They're kind of wussy. Considering we're making it twice the size, go put something reasonable. Call it 30. Now, because we've increased this by a massive amount, it's only reasonable that the amount of electric charge that is also going to go. So, not make it. We could times it by 60. We've increased torque by 60. That would just get completely and utterly ridiculous. We open up the calculator. Do 60 times 0.03, 1.8. Tell you what, we'll compromise a little. Obviously, the bigger it gets, it's logical to say that it's going to be a bit more efficient, so we'll go for 1.5. Again, The module SAS we're going to leave completely, utterly alone. So let's go ahead and save that. Again, for the last time, let's open up KSP. Hello? Mic on mute? Nope. Yes, Shirty. Post links. After last night's screw up, I did indeed turn Nightbot off. So feel free to post a link. Microphone settings. No, it's enabled. The bar's going up and down. Let me know if you still can't hear me. You might need to drop out of the stream and come back in again. Give me a holler on chat. We're going to go into start game. Boom. Gonna mute and unmute my mic just in case. Right, that's my microphone muted and unmuted, just in case something got a little bit squirrely. 0 dropped frames, and data transmit rate looks okay. So let me know, Shirty, if you're still having an issue. Hopefully, something that Shirty's. Anyone having an issue with audio, let me know in the chat. So while he logs out and logs back in again, let's go into VAB and take a look at our new probe core. And straight away, the probes come up and we can see them here. Probodyne Hex. This small little itty bitty thing there. Ours isn't. Ours is a little bit. Hey presto, we've just created a bigger hex core. And when we look at the stats, by right clicking on it, command is unmanned, well we expect that. Electric charge 1.7 per minute. Reaction wheels all set to 30. Electric charge 1.5 per second. What we set it to. SAS has stability assist, prograde and retrograde hold. Electric charge amount that it has is 200. The original, as you can see there, same electric charge for the command module, but the reaction wheels have different values. So bear in mind when you're looking at those stats, where it says reaction wheel, down at the bottom of that little window it says requires electric charge 1.8 per minute. Right. Whereas this one says 1.5 per second. Units do like to change around, and it can cause a little bit of confusion. So, we've created quite a few bigger parts. Go and chuck them all together, shall we? Come on. Yay, I really need to have. Go away. Big 5-meter tank. Well, also got the bigger delta wing, and we also have the bigger radial separator. So, in this episode we've covered a few extra parts and how to do things. Said to you, it's as simple as copy and paste, and change a few of the values. Most of the part configs are that simple. Say most of them. As I mentioned in the first and last episode, the config values for the engines are not that simple, which is why we're going to avoid them for the beginner series. Last night, in the intermediate series, I did go through most of the values with them, so if you're really interested in what the engine configs do, jump on my channel, and last night's stream will be saved, and feel free to go through it. So, gonna open it up to chat, and we've got someone new joining. The fish in a spaceship. Greetings. Just joined in kind of at the end of the stream. But oh well. This stream will of course be available to watch afterwards. So feel free to watch the recording. I'm going to throw you back to my desktop and we'll do a quick recap. So this is our 5-meter jumbo fuel tank. Basically, we gave it a unique name. Rescale factor we changed to 2, so it doubles its size. You can of course use decimal places in there to get specific sizes. The nose stacks and attach automatically rescale with the rescale factor, which is why we use that and not scale. Everything else just configures the part. This is mainly stuff to do with KSP's user interface and where it appears in the single player tech tree. Attach rules, we've been through, pretty much set it to 4 1s and a 0. All separated by commas, by the way. Its mass, that's its dry mass. Drag model, minimum drag, maximum drag, angular velocity, leave them as default. Regardless of what size you make stuff, leave them as default. Because they are coefficient values. They're scale values. So KSP automatically works out what it thinks the drag should be based on its own math, and then applies the rescale values to the drag. Same goes for the lift. Now you can set these to 0 if you want it dragless. feel free. Your KSP, your rules. Crash tolerance, again, that's in meters per second. And you collide with the ground. If you're travelling faster than that value, it's going to go poof. Braking force and braking torque, that is to do with the joints between parts. Higher values means it's harder to snap them off. Maximum temp, pretty much ignore that. The only thing that uses the max temp value is engines and if you're using deadly reentry. Resource modules are if your part contains a resource, so you can add as many of these as you want. So in this case, on our wonderfully big 5-meter orange fuel tank, we increased the amount of liquid fuel that it contains by 3 times, we increased the oxidizer that it contains by 3 times, added in monoprop by copying the resource setting from another config. That we added in a battery with the same method, copy it in, values. Hey presto, it all works. Apart from that very weird jump out bug. I need to go and board that at some point. I'll probably do it straight after the stream and then go and upload it to my YouTube account and post the question on the forum. So that's pretty much what we've covered. Next time we're going to look at deleting parts. A little tip on making KSP run as fast as possible. If you have no intention of using a part, delete it. I'm going to show you how to do it. It's very simple. We're also going to look at adding an individual part from basically a download. So basically a mod that just contains parts. I'm going to show you how to put them in. Again, going to do it step by step, all specifically designed for beginners. Hopefully you'll be able to gain confidence, gain knowledge on how to play with configs, how to find it out. Also next time we're going to look in more detail into the KSP log file to find errors. I'm going to show you how to identify errors within the log file. And then some of the more common ones, I'm going to show you how to fix them. So at this point I'm going to open it up to chat. Is there any questions that anyone wants to answer me? I'd be shot now. Any questions at all? Chuck them up. Kind of in the after party here. And while chat catches up with me, what was it I was gonna do? Yeah, I've just confirmed Nightbot is off, so if you want to post a link, go right ahead. Wonderful. Shirty's okay with what I've gone through. That's what I wanted to look at. Just bear with me. I'm going to look at if anyone's subscribed since I last streamed. last night. Have a look. I think we mentioned home meat. So, a new subscriber, the fish in a spaceship. Right, Shirty's sent me a message. Okay, so let's go and take a look at what it says. He needs a little bit of a hand with. Cheers. Right, he says, "Hi, I'm trying to build a walker leg using IR parts. That will be Infernal Robotics, which moves similar to how a car piston moves. I have a rotor with a free washer attached for the motion, but the arm itself needs holding straight. I can do this with a second rotator below, but if possible I'd rather it done by connecting the arm to a free washer that's set on a gantry rail, but I need the gantry to move freely to allow the correct motion and not rip itself apart. Basically I want to mod the gantry rail to free moving. I've looked at the free washer config and tried copying the free moving equals true from the free washer config into a gantry rail config, but that alone has not worked. Any ideas?" Hmm. Now, I've not played with Infernal Robotics. It is something I want to look into. But you've already copied the config value over for free movement. I assume that you've double checked the config to make sure there already isn't one that says free moving equals false, because having two of them would kind of confuse the living daylights out of KSP. So the only thing that I would suggest that it could be is if within the model itself for Infernal Robotics, whether you have to have that little section of the model that can actually free move. That's the only thing that I could think it would be. Have you? I'm just wondering if the bit that you what was it you tried to do? What about connecting the gantry? Depending on, obviously, I haven't looked at your link, but I wonder if you could put the gantry itself on a free washer to allow it to move. Depends on what you've got attached to the gantry and all your routing. If you can pull up. Oh, it's a JPEG, so yes, need to pull that up. Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting Infernal. Yep, I've got the link. Infernal Robotics is quite complicated. Leave it with me and let me have a look into some of the basics of how internal robotics work. As I say, it's something I want to look into myself, doing various things. I assume there's no other tutorials on it. I'll have a search myself. I know I've seen some of the absolutely wicked stuff that they've done. I believe there's a great big mechs from Mech Warrior, Transformer, robots, etc. Possibly. I think I can see what you're trying to do. The problem is, yes, I can see exactly what the problem is, and you won't be able to solve it that way because as it tries to move around, the bit that you've put on to try and keep the leg vertical and flopping around is going to start colliding with other parts. How would you go about doing it? That's a good question. Leave it with me. I'll see what I can find out. At the end of tomorrow night's advanced customizing stream, I'll fetch it back up again and let you know what I've found out. How's that? Yeah, it should slide and move itself, yeah. But it looks like you're still going to have an issue with it clipping. So, I'll take a look, see what I can find out for you. Anything else that anyone wants to know, give me a holler in chat. Feel free to send me a message. I will read them all. Yep, no problem. I think everyone's disappeared from the stream. Probably because they know it's near the end. So, I'm going to call it there. Next time, I think we've already been through what we're going to cover. More on the log file. Kind of important to know how the log file is structured. Because if you ever make a config error, a typo or something within the config, you need to know why your part is now not being loaded or why a module is not being loaded within KSP. The config file, the log file, will help you figure out what you. Okay, so I'm CW. Remember, it's your KSP, it's your rules. You set it up however you want. For now.